Brendan Schaub. 5 times he nearly talked himself into a fight. Brendan Schaub is no stranger to a microphone or a fight. A former top 10 UFC heavyweight, he earned his stripes inside the octagon, but in recent years, it's not his punches that make headlines. It's his podcast takes. Whether it's The Fighter and the Kid, The Schaub Show, or Food Truck Diaries, Brendan has carved out a lane as loud, often polarizing voice in fight culture and comedy. But sometimes that voice runs a little too hot. He talks big, he jokes hard, he speculates wild, and every now and then, Schaub says something that makes you wonder, is he about to get punched in the mouth again? Because while Brendan often calls himself a peaceful guy, there's a fine line between being controversial and writing checks your chin might not want to cash. Today we're diving into 5 moments Brendan Schaub said something that almost got him in a real-life fight, and explore whether this is a calculated content or classic Schaub being Schaub. Situation number 1, Schaub vs. Nate Diaz. Let's start with one of the most dangerous names to casually name drop in MMA circles, Nate Diaz. On The Fighter and the Kid, Schaub has occasionally critiqued Diaz's style, star power, and negotiating tactics, calling him hard to work with and overrated at points. But it was one particular episode in 2020 where Brendan made waves by saying, quote, "The UFC's protecting Nate. They give him guys he can beat. That's why he won't fight a real top contender." This comment didn't go unnoticed. Diaz fans lit up Twitter, and there were even rumors that Nate confronted Schaub backstage at an event, although Schaub later denied it. Still, the tension was there. And with Diaz known for settling disputes with his fists rather than words, fans were holding their breath. You can call Nate a lot of things, but protected? That's not a label you use lightly unless you're ready to throw hands or duck. Situation number 2, Schaub versus Ariel Helwani. If there's one person Brendan has sparred with verbally multiple times, it's Ariel Helwani, MMA's most recognized journalist. The beef goes back years, but things got heated when Schaub accused Ariel of stirring the pot and trying to become the story during fighter controversies. He also implied Ariel was manipulating fighters for interviews and clout. On air, he said, quote, "He's not a journalist, he's an instigator. He wants to be Dana White's enemy and the fighter's therapist." Ariel clapped back immediately on the MMA Hour, calling Schaub a clown, a bully, and someone who hides behind a mic but won't say it face to face. The feud intensified when Ariel Helwani leaked private DMs between the two and aired Schaub's backpedaling. Now, Ariel's not a fighter, but if there's one man who could make Schaub look bad without throwing a single punch, it's Helwani, with receipts and a live audience. Would it ever come to blows? Probably not, but the public shaming was the intellectual equivalent of a 3-round beatdown. Situation number 3, Schaub versus Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane, smooth striker, interim champ, calm killer. When Gane was scheduled to fight Francis Ngannou, Schaub went on the Schaub Show and said, quote, "Cyryl's the most overrated heavyweight we've seen in a long time. He's all footwork and no fight." He doubled down post-fight when Gane lost to Ngannou, saying Gane was exposed and had no dog in him and looked lost on the ground. That caught attention in the MMA world, especially since Gane is known as one of the most technical and intelligent fighters in the game, and fans quickly reminded Schaub, quote, "You weren't exactly Randy Couture on the mat either." In an interview, Gane was asked about Schaub's criticism. He laughed politely and said, quote, "Some people talk too much. Short, icy, dangerous. Ciryl Gane might smile, but if you keep poking, the Frenchman might just answer back. the way he knows best, in the cage or in private. Situation number 4, Schaub versus Deontay Wilder. This one's just wild. Back in 2021, Brendan criticized Deontay Wilder's excuses after his loss to Tyson Fury, including the infamous heavy costume claim. On air, Schaub mocked Wilder's voice and said, quote, "He's a delusional dude, the kind of guy who needs yes men, not truth tellers." He even joked that if Wilder walked into the studio, quote, "He'd probably swing and miss." It was classic podcast banter, but Wilder's camp didn't find it funny. A close friend of Deontay's allegedly called Schaub personally, warning him to, quote, "keep that energy consistent if he ever sees Deontay in person." Brendan addressed the call vaguely later, saying, "Some people don't take jokes well, but I'm a peaceful dude." Wilder may not be in the UFC, but he's one of the hardest hitters on earth. You don't joke about a man's ego and knockout record unless you're ready to dodge. Situation number 5, Schaub versus the entire internet. Sometimes it's not a specific fighter, it's the entire MMA fanbase Schaub clashes with. Whether he's picking fights with Reddit, threatening lawsuit jokes against YouTube channels, mispronouncing fighter names, or just generally offering takes that feel off, Brendan has become a magnet for MMA memes, compilations, and digital trolling. The ironic part? He called himself the people's champ of podcasting, while blocking hundreds of fans online for simple criticism. It's as if Schaub walks into an online bar every day and throws out a hot take and dares the whole room to react. And when they do, he shrugs and says, "I was just joking, bro." Calculated? Maybe. But chaotic? Definitely. All that being said, the big question is this strategy or chaos? So what's really going on? Is Brendan Schaub a genius marketer creating controversy to drive views and clicks? A chaotic podcaster who just says whatever pops into his head? Or a former fighter still adjusting to life without combat, missing the heat of the battle so he starts fires with his mouth? One thing's clear, Brendan knows how to stir the pot. And while he's always remind us he's a peaceful guy, a dad, a husband, a comic, there's always the risk he says the wrong thing to the wrong dude. Because even if you were top 10 in the UFC, there's always a Nate Diaz, a Ciryl Gane, or a Wilder out there with zero tolerance for disrespect. At the end of the day, Brendan Schaub might just be the MMA world's most dangerous microphone. He doesn't throw punches anymore, but he throws shade, speculation, and spicy sound bites with no filter. And while it's entertaining, it might also be a countdown to confrontation. So what do you think? Is Schaub a master of media chaos, or just a guy who talks too much? Hit like if you've ever cringed at a Schaub take. Comment below the moment you thought he might actually get socked. Share this with your MMA friends who secretly love the drama, and subscribe, because with Schaub, you never know who's catching smoke next.